Hey everyone, Dr. Tim here. Let's see if you can focus in on this. I'm going to kind of show you where we're at. This is all of Egypt. This is the Nile River that runs through Egypt. Remember, the Nile is one of the few rivers in the world that runs from south to north. So even though this is southern Egypt, they call it upland Egypt, and this is downland Egypt in the north. So the river runs from Africa into the Mediterranean Sea. We started out in Cairo. Here's Giza. This is where the pyramids are. We flew from Cairo to Luxor, and then we got on a boat, and we've been traveling down the Nile River from Luxor until today we're at Komobo, which is right here. You can see the word right here, Komobo. This is the temple you see behind me right here, Komobo, and thought this might be a good time to just kind of pause and talk a little bit about conflict resolution. We spent some interesting time with Tony Robbins and talking about stories, and basically our story is what makes our life. Our story, it's not the events that happen to us, it's the meaning that we give those events. I can have something happen to me and you have the same thing happen to you, and I give that a completely different meaning than you do. And perhaps the meaning I give it disempowers me and makes me regret and makes me feel bad and makes me not participate again. Maybe I fail at something like business, and so I decided what that means is I'm obviously not a businessman, so I shouldn't do it. And when you fail at the same business, you decide the meaning of that is, well, you know one way not to do it, and now you're going to find a better way. And so the event is the same, the meaning I give it, and that meaning is also called my story. My story is as Tony says, I got a flat tire. The flat tire is the event. The story I give that flat tire of, oh, the car did this and this happened and this other thing happened, that's the story that I give that flat tire. So the event is the same, but the meaning that I give it or the story that I tell can be changed. And it's become so very obvious as we've been here and first started in Jerusalem and then now in Egypt, the meaning that each cultural group gives something makes their story. And that story gets deeper and deeper and gets translated from generation to generation until you have this conflict between the two because their stories are so different. And we were just talking with our guide today, and he was showing us here in Komobo the evidence that this place was built between 200 BC and finished around 200 AD. And he was showing us evidence that they did circumcision here, and they have some pictures, graphic pictures showing circumcision. And so he was saying that circumcision, was ordained, and they had it even back then. And I asked him if there was any evidence that it was even back further, and he says that there is some evidence in Giza that even 2,000 years BC, circumcision existed. And if you remember the Old Testament, Abraham's covenant with God was circumcision. So it goes clear back to then. Now, interestingly, what other group of people from a religious standpoint believe in circumcision, and that's the Jews. And so it's interesting, they both use it, Father Abraham as their initial prophet, and they both believe in circumcision, and yet the story, for the reason that they tell and the divide that is dividing them is so great that you can actually just sort of feel the tension when you're over here, and the divide has grown stronger and stronger because of the stories that they tell. Because you tell a story doesn't make the story wrong. If you fail the business and I fail the business, the story is correct, but the meaning that story is given, the words that I use to describe that flat tire could have been an inconvenience, or it could have made me extremely furious. That's the same event. The words that I use to describe that event, the words that I use to describe how my emotions, words create emotion, and so the more powerful the words I use, the more emotion I represent. Sometimes I can downplay that emotion by downplaying my words. So in non-conflict resolution, one of the things is to teach people a different vocabulary and see if they can change their words and therefore change the meaning they give something and change their story, make the story a more empowering story. And what we hope is in this conflicted part of the world, and particularly in our own lives, you can change the words and change your story to give your story a more empowering meaning for your life. You can keep the same story, it's up to you. But if the story you tell yourself, the memory self, is not empowering you, maybe what you could do is give it a different story. Give it a different meaning. Take that same event and say, the new meaning I'm giving it that will empower me is going to be to change that meaning so that from now on I will never let that thing happen again, or I will change it, or I will help someone because of the meaning I give the story. So that's my lesson for the day. That's sort of the things I've been taking away. This place is really about philosophy, and sitting here in ancient Egypt, it gives you some time to reflect on the world and the meaning things have. And so I hope this is helpful to you, and I will talk to you soon. Peace out. Dr. Tim.